Good meowing, YouTube, and this is Juju here. Welcome to our, wait, what tutorial is it? I think it's the 7th? Yeah, our 7th. And we are going to be learning about loops today. So, let's get started. So, what a loop is. A loop is a way of repeating code without having to type it out several times over and over and over. Now, there are really two types, but a variation of the second, so a total of 3 types of loops. The first one is called a for loop. And how a for loop works is that it takes these brackets and inside we have to specify where to start. So int is going to take a variable for all of them. So I'm going to create an integer called I and set it equal to 0. And now we can set, now the second part is the condition. And what that means is, when do we want the code to stop? I want the code to stop after 10 times, just for this demonstration. And the third part is, how much do we want to increment it by? So we're going to start at 0 and increment by 1 until this condition is no longer true. So when it starts at 0, this will be true. And by the way, it doesn't increment automatically. Like, that's a question I get a lot, is does the for loop increment when it goes to do its first loop? No, it starts off at 0 and then it will go ahead and increment by your specified here. So if I wanted to say system.out.println, this is line number and then I, and so we can pass in the variable that's actually being incremented over and over and over again. So let's see what happens. Oh yeah, and it starts at 0 and it goes all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now you may be saying, hey Juju, it's not actually going to 10. Well, it is actually running 10 times, but remember how I said that arrays will start at 0? Well, it also starts counting at 0 because we specified it to count at 0. And because it started counting at 0, it is in fact running 10 times. So let's go ahead and there's that condition. Another way is the while loop. And the while loop is similar, except it does not take this, and you kind of have to take more of a manual control. So while I, and all it takes in here is the condition. It doesn't specify when to increment or anything. So while I is less than 10. And for this one, I'm going to increment before we actually run our code. Go ahead and run. And now, oh, I forgot to bring my screen down. It starts at 1 this time and goes all the way to 10. Now, even though, now you may notice that even though it's says while I is less than 10, because we increment it before we run the code and not after, it doesn't check while this condition is true until it reaches the end of the code and returns to the top. So that's also something to keep in mind. And the other one is a do while loop. Now the difference between a do while loop and a while loop is, let's say this were already 10 and this were to decrease. Oh, in case I didn't specify, I minus minus is another way of writing I is equal to I minus 1. So what this means is that, let's say this started off as 10, so it would be 10 minus 1, which is 9, and now I will equal 9, and then so on and so forth. I think I didn't, but that I can't English today apparently. I didn't think I explained that, so it's the same as plus also. So if I was adding and this started at 0 or 10 even, this would become 10 plus 1, and then this would become 11. Another way of writing this would be I plus or equals 1, and this basically states I is equal to I plus 1. Simple enough. But when we're only dealing with 1, we can represent it as I plus plus or I minus minus. And so if we run this in a standard while loop, it's not going to run anything. And why is that? Well, because it already started off at 10, and so the code is already false. So, hold on. I realize that that's probably going to be bad. So, and greater than, yeah. So what this and means is that if both sides of it are true, and I'll go over the second one in this. There's also something called an or, and what this means is that if this is true and this is true, then continue. Because if we go under 0 while minusing, we'll have an infinite loop, and so we might as well address this and get it out of the way. So if I go ahead and run this, it's going to have the same results, nothing. Just to show you that the code I added did not actually do anything. So if we go ahead and move this while to the bottom and type do, what this is going to do here is, instead of checking the condition when it first runs at the beginning like it usually does, it will actually do everything in here and then check while the condition is true and then loop. So if we go ahead and run this now, we have our code. This is line 8, 9, 2, and 0. And perfect. If I didn't add that and part, it would have always been decreasing, and it would have actually probably crashed my Java. So the other one is, let's say we have an integer called I equals 0 and another integer called b, and set that to 10. So while I is less than 5, let's go ahead and run this first. and go I++ and say system.out.println number, and we're going to say hi to that number because we don't want to make that number feel left out. Alright, so as you can see, it has decreased. Decreased. It has ran exactly 5 times high number 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. But let's say there's a case that we actually want to check where B or I could be running. So if B were constantly decreasing, that voice crack though. Or B is greater than 0. And let's go run this bad boy. And you'll notice that it actually ran 10 times because, oh, my watch has notified me that my supper is done in the kitchen. That's awkward. Anyways. So it ran a total of 10 times because even though that I had become greater than 5, less than 5, B was still greater than 0, so it continued running. And that's it for this tutorial. If you like this tutorial and would like to see more of it, go ahead and give it a like, comment. If you have any concerns, go ahead and leave me a message down below, or if you are having problems, go ahead and ask me. I'll be happy to help as long as I'll try anyways. And have a good day. See you all in the next tutorial.